Okay, well, I think we have everyone. I'd like to start, and I'd like to start. Not sure. I'd like to start with this. There were a couple of things I mentioned about Hellenistic and Greek sculpture, and I thought I'd bring some examples or some images of what I was talking about. And so this is Donatello, Mary Magdalene, 1454-55. As I was saying about Hellenistic sculpture, it was more real, even if it was very gruesome reality. They moved quite far away from the perfect and the ideal. And I wanted you to compare that to this old market woman that we saw just on Monday. And so gruesome reality, not idealized. And we know for certain that Italian Renaissance artists were very familiar with ancient Greek and Roman sculpture. Actually, at the time, there was a concerted movement started by the Florentines in the 1400s, right after the plague, and it kind of spread all through Italy. But bottom line is, that's why we call it the Renaissance. They wanted the rebirth after the plague. They wanted the rebirth of their former greatness that existed centuries and centuries before. And so that is Donatello. I brought these in. And they are sculptures by Michelangelo, and they're referred to as the unfinished sculptures. And because in part, you can still see the block of stone from which they were being carved. There is some debate about whether these are really unfinished, or maybe that's how Michelangelo intended them to be. And many of them are male nudes, right out of Greek culture. And I wanted you to kind of think about that and this sculpture that we looked at on Monday from Hellenistic Greece. And so it's not quite as unfinished as the Michelangelo, but subject matter, it is a reclining male nude, and much of this sculpture still identifies, you can still see the original nature of the block of marble. And so we don't know for sure. Some people say that Michelangelo was looking at this kind of sculpture when he created his, and some say he got bored, quit, went on to do other things. But you can see it was from Castel Sant'Angelo, Rome, Italy. So bottom line, it was the kind of thing that was right there, was the kind of thing that Renaissance artists and Renaissance people were very interested in at the time. And I put a surprise on here Horatio Green now. Megan, you're shaking your head. Do you know about this?
Not this piece particularly, but I know of another piece where of him using the Greek like robes and stuff. But he sent it back because he said he wanted to look like one of the people, like one of the American people.
Yes, yes. And I know what you're talking about. He looked like a Roman senator with the toga and everything. Yeah, there were. And this is kind of where things backfired a little bit. And I told you and showed you about how ancient Greek art and architecture influenced actually our country in the early days, and they really tried to make the buildings look as much like ancient Greece and Rome, and especially some like the Supreme Court building, Lincoln Memorial, and so on. Jefferson Memorial too, but that's a little more Roman. But at any rate, this was commissioned, and it's just like what Megan said. Well, it's the same kind of thing. It was done, commissioned in 1832 on Washington's birthday, February 27th, the 100th anniversary. And so a lot of times, my point being, a lot of times what you do in architecture translates very differently when you do the same thing in sculpture. And it was just exactly what Megan was saying. And so the architecture goes back to ancient Greece and Rome, and the idea being democracy and the people, and Roman citizens, Greek citizens, government by the people, for the people. But when you start bringing in Roman gods and making George Washington, this has been called George Washington as Zeus, by the way. And so it was moved to the Capitol's East Lawn in 1843. And it's kind of a lesson in American history. So that's that. And I wanted to show you today and talk about the Etruscans. And as I mentioned, they are the inhabitants, the people, the civilization on the Italian peninsula before Rome became this very powerful city-state that conquered much of the Western world. And so the Etruscans, and I showed you these guys in the news, the warriors, the Mona Lisa. Did I get to show you the Elgin marbles? I don't think so either. And I had some issues with the other class too, because the links and all of that. And the screen share and all of that.
Did you press record?
Pardon?
Did you press record?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I don't know.
Yeah, I got stop recording, so I must have. Thank you. You know what, though? That must be a common issue because somebody left this.
It is a common.
Yes. I know. And the way that COVID and everybody's schedules and everything, it is, yeah, it's one of our It's one of our most valuable tools here. And so, can you guys see this at home? Is this on your screen share? Case for the return and stuff. Here is, wanted to show you. This is the website for the British Committee for the Reunification of the Parthenon marbles. Whoa, hey, I want to kind of reset this a little bit. For 200 years almost, we call it the Elgin marbles because Elgin was the guy who took them. Now we talk about them as the Parthenon models, and so our language actually is much more accurate. And so on this site, you can find out about the various ways to get involved with the campaign. But this is active, it is ongoing, and it's peaceable. It is not a war. They're not litigating this in the courts. They're trying very desperately to get these back. It's complicated. And so the history of the marbles, for 200 years, the Greeks have been yearning for the return of these sculptures, which is basically ever since Elgin put them on his boat, took them home. And there's the history, the case for the return. And what I wanted to point out here is this is the Parthenon Museum that we saw in the film. This is from the inside, looking up here at the Parthenon. And so, it's got a lot of things. It's basically a pretty good website. And you can visit virtually. Let's take a look at this. And let me see the screen share. You guys seeing that at home?
Press screen at the top.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, we're good. You were there? Yeah. Oh, yeah. It is. It's awesome. Oh, yes.
screen. You don't have to keep flipping back and forth. Top left corner.
Top
In this
left.
tab, this is just of the pop-up screen. Yeah.
Oh. Oh, screen. Yeah, gotcha. And so, talking about it, did I show you the lighting?
Oh, of the new Metropolis stuff?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. And so that's that. This is a really, as you guys know, it's a pretty short chapter. And it's kind of an interesting chapter. I've been kind of looking ahead because I'm going to have to talk about this stuff, you know. But at any rate, one of the things about Etruscan culture is that it was pretty much overwhelmed by Roman culture. And when we talk about Roman culture, really the center of their art, architecture, painting is really at Pompeii, because Pompeii was buried in 79, year 79. And it's been preserved, hermetically preserved. And so anyway, it's not on this map, but I did want to show you that these are the most of all of the city-states of the Etruscan population. And they are kind of like the cultures of the Aegean in that they show evidence of influence from some of the other cultures. And in this case, they show influence. I got to move this here. They show influence of Greeks, and they also show influence of Egyptian culture in a very big way, and especially how they put these friezes on. I wanted to point out something because as I was thinking about the points I wanted to make, something just hit me like a bolt out of the blue. In painting, what we see from ancient Greece, what we see in Etruscan art, and what we see in Egypt, almost all of the time when human figures are portrayed, they're done in profile. And so this is the same thing. And for, you know, we know they knew how to do things. They knew how to make sculpture, so they did really kind of grasp the idea of space and everything. But this is a convention. It's a convention that will change in Roman times. Like I said, I was looking ahead. But necropolis. I know what a necropolis is. Megan shaking her head. City of the dead. Yeah, necro, it means dead. Polis, like Indianapolis, so on. And so anyway, this is one of the things that the Etruscans left us, and they were really kind of different. That's the idea of an afterlife is something that we see in Egyptian culture. Of course, that's where we see all of these tombs of pharaohs and other important people. But Etruscans were much more inclined to honor the afterlife of more ordinary people. And so you didn't have to be a king or a queen. Sometimes they get these things and they talk about what family they were from. And so this here is the Regolini Galassi tomb, but that's named after the people who found this, by the way. And this is a fibula. A fibula. Is that a bone? It is a bone, but this means something entirely different. This is like a pin, like a brooch or something that you would wear. And you see it's made out of gold, and you see it's quite old. 650 BCE, which makes it 2,600 years old, which is like archaic Greek times. Yeah, Charlotte, what you got?
If it's a brooch, why is it 18 inches tall?
1 foot, yeah. It's more ornamentation. It's probably a bad way to describe it, but yeah, it is. Yeah, it would be
like a chess piece.
Yeah, ornamentation. Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, you're right. It's yeah, 18 inches. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, that's a lot of gold too.
Oh, yeah.
Would probably walk with a suit. But and you can see the way that the animals are depicted on here, and this kind of looks something like Mesopotamian depictions of lions, more so than Greek. But again, we're building kind of a visual artistic vocabulary here. I think this, and the book supports this, modern scholarship supports this, that there was a lot of interaction. Any culture was somewhat multicultural. And so in the past, everybody wanted to put down lines of demarcation on this side, on that side. We're finding that's not really so true. And not just in art, we're finding that out through DNA analysis. We're finding out in a lot of ways that, like for instance, Neanderthals were supposed to be a different kind of humanoid race, and we think that they were wiped out by a rival species of hominid people. And now we're finding out that that really wasn't the case. They intermarried, they interbred, and we're finding Neanderthal DNA from people as far away as like South Africa and West Africa. So we are the family of humankind, truly. And I want to show you this. This is a typical Etruscan temple, and it kind of has some of the characteristics. It kind of looks more Minoan than anything we've seen so far. It's got the columns, 6th century BCE, so it's the 500s. Still 100 some odd years before the Parthenon, but honestly, people have been using columns as such, and they're not ornamented, and they don't even have fluting, which makes it look more Minoan, and the color. And what you see on here too, I'd like to point out that there doesn't really seem to be this mathematical model that they're trying to support, demonstrate, convey to the viewer. It's much lower, much wider, and and maybe there is some kind of mathematical ideal that this embodies, but we don't know about that yet. We just think that was basically just architecture without these other kinds of mathematical truths. But you see, they put the statues up along the roof, just like the Greeks did, and so on. And again, we see that their gods, and there's a list in the book if you want to take a look at it. Etruscan gods, Roman gods, Greek gods. And they almost all have their counterparts. And so this is Apollo, which is Apollo in Etruscan. And so we see a lot of the things going on here. You see this is 500 BCE, corresponds time-wise with archaic Greek. And when we were talking archaic Greek, we were also talking about the Oriental influence, as they say, or the Oriental period with the geometric and the archaic. And this is really, in terms of how this has all been portrayed, this is right out of South Asia and Mesopotamia, that area in there by the Indus River and so on. This looks like it could have come out of Hindu culture. And so, again, cross-pollination. And here, this is another example. Reclining couple. And so they did honor the dead, and as I said, and a sarcophagus is really kind of just a tomb. It's kind of a casket of sorts, but you see it's much more ornamented, and it's much more, how should I say this? Well, it's very elaborate for a casket. And in Egypt at this time, and or Mesopotamia, you know, this kind of treatment was really only given to kings and pharaohs and stuff. And so the other part of that is we don't really, aside from mausoleums in Greece, we really don't have a lot of information about how they handled their dead of ordinary citizens. But in the Etruscan culture, very much. And so here we go. Here's an outside view of the Bandicata, excuse me. And you see, they not only made tombs, and they didn't really make mausoleums as such. They made these, and they're basically brick and with some covering of earth. But they have entryways into it, 7th to 7th century. So this is like they did this for like 500 years. And you can still find them in the countryside occasionally. And this is what they look like inside. And two of the shields and chairs. And so we name things after what we can recognize. The shields are these discs that are carved on walls, and the chairs are these. And this is all carved rock. And you see over here, these are benches. They could have been beds too. But like the Egyptians, they kind of built a home away from home. They didn't, as far as we know, they didn't load it up with all of the gold and tools and food and stuff that you'd find in a pharaoh's tomb. But they have gone many steps further in terms of honoring the dead. And that's what we do today. That's why we have cemeteries and they're all full. You don't have to be a president to have a funeral. So anyway, here's another tomb of the release. And so each of these are kind of unique, and they are reliefs, and these are just different things. This is likely a mirror. We see some rope, we see a sword, we see some vessels. And so, but a lot of this is just, it's not really functional. It's carved into the rock. So you can't, it's not like this rope, you can just take it. It's actually a sculpture. And so that is in it. And what I was saying about the pharaohs, they would actually have the rope, the food, the amphora with water, and so on. And so anyway, this is a quite unique and quite different. And so we have these paintings, and again, this is mostly, again, profile, kind of the same Egyptian sort of style painting. And what we know about Greek painting, it was very similar to this. Again, ancient Mediterranean culture. And if I could be so bold as kind of bowl Egypt into a Mediterranean culture too. It is actually, that's their sea to the north. Tomb of hunting and fishing. And we have some sculpture. And this is, yes. Romulus and Remus, and what did they do?
I know that they both built cities, and whichever one, I probably remembering this wrong, but something about which one the birds chose would become the city of, or the main city of Italy, which ended up being Rome. Romulus.
Yes.
But yeah.
That's exactly right. And they in the mythology, in the lore, was that they were abandoned in the woods, and they were adopted and nurtured by the she-wolf. And this is called capital Latin wolf, but that's same thing. The she-wolf, that's what she was called for all of these years. There is some dispute about the provenance. It says circa 500, 480 BCE or 12th century Common Era. What the heck?
That's a big jump.
Yeah, it is. Yes, it is. And kind of where scholars, many have kind of come down on this, is that this was actually the she-wolf, the capital Latin wolf, was likely made 500 BCE by the Etruscans. And it's in bronze. And one of the things about Etruscan culture is this, that they were really good at casting bronze. They were like, actually, in a lot of ways, they were like right up there with the Greeks. And they were so good at it that they actually, you'll find a lot of everyday household items made of bronze in Etruscan culture, which didn't really happen in other places because it was expensive, it was hard to do, and you kind of saved the bronze for statues and things. And so anyway, we think this is maybe original, and that Romulus and Remus here were created in the 12th century to kind of finish out the story of Romulus and Remus and the founding of Rome. You got that all right, Charles. Good. And so anyway, it's still disputed about the provenance and the date and stuff, but that is really kind of the most accepted. And you can see here is stylistically, this is kind of stiff and kind of stylized, whereas the babies look like they came right out of really classical Greek or even Renaissance.
Very dynamic poses.
Yes, dynamic poses, the idea of anatomical accuracy. You can see it. And I got a 1-year-old grandson. They're living with us. And he's got this too, chubby little legs. Yeah. And so I'm going to bring a picture of him. It's like so cool. And so here's a chimera, and this is a mythical beast of ancient Etruscan culture. And you can see it's mostly a lion, this tail of a snake, and so on. And this is yet like the other one, it's a good example of bronze sculpture in Etruscan culture. And so here's what I was talking about a minute ago. Ficcarone, Cista from Palestrina, Italy, late 4th century BCE. What is a cista? Kind of like a brother, you know, to say. This is a container for toiletries. So you would keep your comb and brush and maybe your soap, perfume and stuff like that in this container. And again, that's what I was saying about bronze being kind of more widespread in its usage in Etruscan culture. And again, they etched these images onto the surface, and it was cast, and you can see the animal paw, feet, and so on. But this is Etruscan culture, and this is the back of a mirror, and I don't know. It's not my language. Examining a liver on the back of a mirror. What? It is weird. Well, you guys don't like get liver and examine it and stuff.
Well, that it's on the back of the mirror. It doesn't seem very comfortable. If it was like for stuff you can use.
Yeah, like something in the kitchen, you know, fried onions. It is weird. And if you understand ancient beliefs, ancient mysticism, that there were different things that they would do to try to foretell the future. And so examining a liver could get you could kind of tell what the future would hold. So you would have a seer, and they would have all of these kinds of what seems weird, which is weird, ways of foretelling the future. And so, examining a liver is one of those things. Roberta Marzia, excuse me. This is one of the big contributions in architecture that we find developing in Etruscan culture, and this is the arch. Let me explain this just a little bit. And I was going to get the formula because I can't remember it, but it's a geometry formula. And what is a circumference is r squared, is that right? Or diameter squared. Anyway, bottom line.
Pi r squared? I think it's pi r squared.
Pi r squared is for the area of a circle, I think, but I could be wrong. I need to stay in my lane. Anyway, Megan, you getting it?
Circumference?
Well, yeah, I want to find circumference.
Is C equals 2 pi r.
Circumference 2 pi r.
Also known as
R
pi times diameter.
pi times diameter, yeah. And pi r squared, yeah, there we go. And so basically what you're doing here, and that mathematical formula means that the diameter, the diameter of this is this line right there. It's cut the circle in half. And then what we got here is times r, or excuse me, pi, yeah. So this is like, and it's half of it, so it's, and pi is 3.1, so this is like 1.6, roughly. Follow me? Half of that. And so this is like 1.5 times longer than what this would be a post and lintel. The lintel would be, say, 10 feet. This would be 16 feet. And the reason I'm bringing this up is that what you have here is that this weight is distributed. The weight of the wall above it is distributed over something that's over 1.5 times as long. And so the archway is cut into these blocks. And so they fit together. And the arch can support much more weight than a simple lintel. And that was a discovery that basically shows up in Etruscan architecture. We see it here, and this has all been filled in, by the way, but arch construction. And this is one of the legacies of Etruscan culture, because the Romans pick up on this big time. I'm going to give you a spoiler alert. The Greeks had this kind of culture that was based on a lot of ideas and a lot of ideals. They thought about the ideal government. That's where they come up with the idea of democracy. They come up with ideal proportions, which is guided the construction of the Parthenon. They came with ideals about a lot of things, life itself, proportions of the human body, so on and so on. And they were really interested in the ideal. The Romans come along, and a lot of their art, sculpture and painting, is copied right out of Greece. And their contribution in Western civilization is their skills at building. They were builders. And in a lot of ways, the Romans were more practical or pragmatic, as the Greeks were idealists. And so a lot of things that they did were just practical, and they built a lot of things. They engineered some things that we'll see. Amazing things, but we're not seeing the Parthenon again. We're not seeing a lot of things, but we're seeing a lot of things that are much, much more practical and much more based on engineering. And so, sarcophagus from Lars Poulena. And so, where's the word? Tufa. What the heck? Does that have something to do with buy one, get one free? You get two for the price of one. Tufa. What this is, and again, mind you, when we go, all of these cultures, they use the materials readily available to them, and tufa is a kind of volcanic rock. It's easily carved, and it was widely used in Etruscan culture. What they, like I say, you use what you have. They didn't have massive amounts of marble, such as Greece, and Egypt had tons of sandstone and limestone, and so anyway, tufa. And so here's some more, another sarcophagus, together forever. I missed something here that I wanted to show you. And do I have it? Yes, right here. There's a point I wanted to make about this, and I overlooked it. Terracotta. Know what that is? It's clay.
Fireplace.
Yeah, well, it's kind of low fired clay, yes. And we see you get terracotta especially in like this culture in Greece, especially in Italy. You ever see those, and in Spain too, those roofs? They are made of terracotta tiles, they're orange. And so, yeah, it's a kind of clay, and you could low fire it. It's not quite as strong as ceramic, but you can shape it, you can fire it, and it's durable. And so terracotta, you can go to Lowe's or something and get those orange clay pots, terracotta. And so that's what this is. This is painted, which is why it has this kind of dark patina, and it's been polished out, I'm sure, but it is terracotta. And my point being this: cultures use what's available. And so I learned that in a big way when I was in graduate school, and I took a course on Indian art, India, South Asia. And for my final, it was an oral because I was in graduate school. And they started showing these different works of art and asked me where they were from. Oh no, I want to get a degree. Anyway, bottom line was this, and that's what they explained. They said, what it's made out of can tell you where it's from. And so this kind of stone is found in central India, South India, North India by the Himalayas, and so on. I passed. I'm here. I got my degree. Anyway, uh, first century BCE, and we're right in here at the beginnings of the transfer between Etruscan culture and Roman culture. And this is kind of like that sculpture we were talking about with George Washington, I'm sure, wearing being a Roman senator kind of thing. And so anyway, that is, here we go. Screen share.
You're fine. So yeah,
since it's on screen, it'll just always show what's on your screen.
Oh.
So you don't have to switch.
Oh, cool. No, I don't want that one. I want this one. Can you guys see group presentations at home?
Yes, I can.
All right, thanks, Peter. You guys. I wanted to spend the last few minutes of our time together to talk about this. And it's in the syllabus, and it's a big thing. It's the group presentations. I've been keeping a census of who's all still in the class, because a lot of times I got a lot of people that's never been. They've been doing this totally on Zoom, and I'm fine with that. It brings up some issues, though, and that's why I want to start a little early on this. And so we have, I think, like 19 people. And I'd like to, I think, depending, I'm going to listen to your feedback, but thinking that we could have groups of three people working on a presentation, maybe two, I don't know. We'll figure that out. But this is all out of, I got this slide here, the purpose. Develop research skills, and I've been trying to, I want to kind of keep pushing that along too, and I think you guys are actually in a pretty good place to be able to start this. I got your first quiz, I got your second quiz. I know what you can access, and that combined with those two is really quite a lot. Public speaking, well, that's not really going to happen in this day of COVID. But what I want you to do on this, I'll tell you about, is put your presentations together as an MP4. And we'll play them in class.
So video?
Yeah, video, yes. And so knowledge, this is really our purpose here. I want you to go away knowing more than what you did before. And so knowledge, there's a lot of things you learn. Sometimes not actually from the textbook or the syllabus. I learn stuff all the time, like just press square up in the upper left corner and you can just keep going instead of, I learned that. I didn't go to computer science. You guys taught me. And so I want you to do PowerPoint, partly because that will give, that is a format that I know I'll be able to open. I learned something on the first quiz where I had some people giving me Google Docs and putting stuff on a Google Share site and stuff. And I was having all kinds of issues. PowerPoint will be able to get the job done. And the idea of working cooperatively, that is something that is really a big part of higher ed in this day and age, because in part, almost anything we do, anything that you may do in your life will probably require some some cooperation with others. And so, anyway, that's kind of the things that we're interested in. And so basically choose partners and choose subject matter. And I can tell you right now that some of you guys know each other, some of you don't. And this is going to be an interesting thing. I was thinking about maybe on Monday putting up a chat room that's on Zoom. And maybe we could start to kind of figure out who's interested in what and who might be willing to work with whom. And I think having everybody together on the chat might be a good way to go. And so after that, these are all down the line. But your subject, I got to tell you about this because I want you to start thinking about it. Painting, sculpture, architecture before 1300. And so I want you to talk about the cultural context, the formal analysis, the legacy, which is really kind of the same thing that we've been talking about here. I just gave you some Hellenistic legacy, and so on. And so these are the kinds of things that you will have to divide up. What I don't want, and I hope we don't get, is like one person doing all the work. That is not fair, and that is not cooperative learning. And so anyway, I want you to, we got computer support. I want everybody's voice and everybody's research in this presentation. And I want to, because you're going to give me this, we're going to play it, and we'll record it. I want to, how should I say it? I want you to be here or on Zoom to answer questions about your presentation. And submitting the materials on Canvas, I can't accept your videos on Canvas. The files are too big. We ran into that last year. And in fact, because of COVID, the storage, the digital storage is being overwhelmed with all of us recording. So you saw that when I recorded this, it was recorded to the cloud. And then I take that from the cloud and I put it on YouTube. And then I put the YouTube link into our media gallery. And so that's how I've been able to do it. But we'll have to do something quite similar, but the submission on Canvas will be not the presentation, but the link, whether you put it on YouTube or Google Video, Google Share Docs, whatever, just so we can get it, I can publish it and we can play it.
So we're not actually presenting these in class, we're like making a video and you're showing our video to the class?
Right, we're gonna show the video. I'll run it here and I'll show it, share it with the entire class. What you guys will have to do is kind of set up something. That's why I went through all of these tasks and all this stuff. You guys are gonna have to have a site like a Google Docs or something, and something that your entire team can access and edit and save it. And so as we go along, this is going to be interesting. I think there is a practical side to this. I was, in my former job, I was an art teacher at Truman, but I was also, I served 3 terms as president of the Faculty Senate. And the Faculty Senate does a lot of stuff, helps kind of run the institution, and helps with accreditation and other kinds of things. And we had documents from the Senate that we needed to publish, and we had maybe more than 3, sometimes 10 or 15 faculty and administrators working on the same document. So we had to do what I'm asking you to do. With 3 people, it should be much easier. But at any rate, I've been there. I know it can be done. And that's how you'll have to do this. Leave it in some kind of place accessible to everyone. May have to set up a new account or something on Google, however. And again, back to this. Where do I have computer support? This is why I really want to start this now. I think the actual presentation should be kind of easy, but getting it set up and everything. So this PowerPoint is a module, is in the modules for today's class, and it'll be in the media gallery too, because I'm going to put this recording where you can get it. So, are we good? Charlotte, you got it.
So are we going to talk about the presentations more in class?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
right. Absolutely. Good question. No, I just want you guys to start thinking about it right now. Yeah. Thinking about what you like, and you can jump way ahead in the book. Anything from this volume 1 is fair game, appropriate. And so, let's see, I got some chat. Okay, I got it. So, that's it. Have a good weekend, and we have a quiz Monday. I'm sorry. Class is over? Oh,
Is it
yeah.
the same setup as last time?
Yeah, a little bit. It's going to be a somewhat similar, but a little different task. But the content, Greece and Etruscan.
Is it like the last one where we can pick any starred slide, or is it not like that?
Well, it'll be over. Yeah, I really haven't quite put it all together yet. So
You put it on Canvas and you have it figured out.
okay, yeah, I'll certainly do that. But what I'm thinking is it's going to be whatever I do is going to be open book and open source. So that's where it'll be similar. What I got to kind of figure out is what do I need to make sure that you need to know so you can move ahead with this presentation. And I was actually thinking about this. Maybe the quiz will be choosing artworks and forming groups. You got me thinking now. It's dangerous. Okay, I'll put something on announcements too.
That'd be great. Thank you.
All right, you bet.
Excuse me?
I'm on you there, Peter.
Yeah, so I wanted to speak about the quiz on Monday.
Yeah.
So is that going to be a group project?
No, what I was talking about was an assignment that's due November 30th. The quiz is going to be something not quite as big as all that.
Is it going to be just like the last quiz we had where we find a peer-reviewed source?
Well, it'll be kind of like that. I think I'm going to ask you to find something else, but yeah, just like that.
Yeah, I just was thinking, like, should I look for my source beforehand so I don't run into the issue I ran in the incidents that happened last time?
No, no, don't do that. Don't get ahead. No, just kind of keep familiar with the material in Greece and the Etruscan culture.
Can I take this? Could I be on at home on Zoom for it on Monday instead of in the classroom?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't, yeah, just that way so I can have extended time.
Yeah, well, that's why I was asking you to think about going to the center because you can have all the time you want over there.
Yeah, but there I have to be forced to sit in a room with the mask.
Well, there you won't have a bunch of other people waiting on you. And there'll be a lot of distractions because you won't be the only one in here.
Yeah, but what about at home?
At home's fine.
Could I still take the time I need to if I'm at home?
Sure, of course.
All right.
Very good. All right, see you Monday.
Bye. See you then.